Rex Brandstatter Senior Talk, brought to you by Tammy Rouse Senior Benefits, Windmill Manor, and the Solon American Legion. How are you doing today, Rex?
Hi, Molly. Doing great. Easy. See, I couldn't pronounce my last name either until about third grade, so don't feel bad. Thank you so much. Great to be here, and greetings and a welcome to each and every one of you listening in today to Senior Talk, the weekly program where we try to figure out and identify and talk about and think about and cause you to think about lots and lots of different things. And you certainly do not need to be a senior to join us here on Senior Talk, as we just might talk about something that helps you, which maybe if you're not a senior, maybe help your uncle, aunt and uncle, maybe help your mom and dad or your uncle, your aunt, anyone like that, your friends. We just bring some things up and see where it goes. We hope we don't step on many toes. Once in a while we do, all in the good name of promoting reliability and responsibility for we as seniors. So take a break, grab a sandwich and a nice cold root beer, and let's see what we can stir up this week. I want to thank you for listening to Senior Talk. You know, it's not easy being a senior. Every day, each and every day. You can go online, you can listen to your friends, you can listen to people in the grocery store, you can watch the news, anything like that. You can hear seniors, fellow seniors, talking about retirement, this or that, health, oh boy, this are the issues here, income, we need to make some more money, financial issues, expenses, way too many expenses, family life, family living arrangements, and more. And we'll work with lots and lots of these here on Senior Talk as we go. I've got a couple good examples of almost each one. Well, my name is Rex Brandstatter. I live in Coralville, as a matter of fact. I'm 73 years old, and I've been licensed. I'm a real estate broker since 1974. Richard Nixon was president, as a matter of fact. Well, I work mainly with seniors and senior families. I work with trust departments of banks. I work with executives of estates. I work with administrators of estates. I work with powers of attorneys of estates, and I work with, of course, seniors and senior families. And so if you'd like to talk about real estate, give me a call at 319-330-5534. You can also feel free to call me at that same number, and maybe I can help you find someone to do some painting and maybe some little minor sheetrocking in your house, repairs. You never know who might call on those. Maybe a plumber, maybe someone to fix your deck, maybe someone to fix a little cement. I'll try to give you some names that people who have worked on my properties who I trust and I know would do a good job for you too. So, well, you know, it's almost the 4th of July, and I just have to say wow, because it just seems like we were just on the big mission to make sure the summer solstice got turned around, or the sun got turned around and headed our way, and then springtime, and then basketball tournaments, and Iowa baseball, all those things are gone now for the year, and here we are almost the 4th of July. Well, what this means in our country, ladies and gentlemen, it's the 247th anniversary of the Revolutionary War from 1776. 247 years, my, makes you wonder if we'll last another 200 years, doesn't it? My guess is I won't have to guess because I won't be around here to worry about them, but I think there's some issues that sure need to be changed, and as soon as we can, for sure. Lots of different things, taxes, all kinds of things. So the time is right now. I want to tell you this for sure at a local level. The time is right now if you'd like to visit some downtown businesses. Parking is available. Keyword there, parking is available. Yeah, well, you know, you might as well do this while you can, because in another 2 months, right at it, or less, 35,000 kids will be back, jamming things up, and God love them, God hate them. In the springtime, we're ready for them to get the heck out of town, and by the time they get here, all the businesses want their money back, want their money to come back to town. It's just a university town. We all know this. And right now, you know, it's really not easy getting around town due to all this construction, all the road things. Thank God they're doing them in the summer, which they start a lot of projects like the week that school is out here in town, and they try to get done by the time football starts in the fall, but you know that really doesn't end that way. But they're really at it all over town, both sides of the river, out corner, anywhere. North Liberty, they're going to it too. It's just a good time. So as they would say, suck it up and sit in line for a while, and it'll all get better for sure. So I just want you to know that right now I'm not really impressed with these hazy days we've got going out there when you really realize that it's the smoke from wildfires in Canada. In Canada, well, why don't they take care of it up there? Why don't they get more firefighters up there? This is Rex talking here, not the official stance of KCJJ. Why don't they get more? I see the Nova Scotia had big fires, and we sent 400 or 500 fire jumpers up there. I don't know. Maybe they're doing that now. I don't know. But this is really a big deal. Here we are in the Midwest, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles away from these fires. And if I'm out here at the studios and you look out across the cornfields, I met a car that had the headlights on today. And it is not fog. It is haze from these fires. So Canada, you need to step up and do better. I'm calling on Canada to do better. And I'm sure the radio voice and the power here, they're going to hear this, and they're going to have to stand up and do better up there in Canada. Well, I've had some interesting talks with seniors this week, one of them even as late as this morning. Many seniors are on track with their new careers for seniors. Many of you are part-time. Many of you are full-time in a new career. And lots of you are just flat, happily retired, doing whatever you wanted to do, basically nothing except what you want to do. And all this is good news, as it probably is a reflection of what these people had planned. Okay, if you're working part-time, you probably decided, well, I'm going to be retired for a while just to enjoy it for a while, but then I'm going to work part-time. Or I had a friend that left a job on June 30th and started a new one on June 1st because a company came to see him and said, we've got to have you. So he worked for 3 more years at that. So he didn't even do it for one day. To me, if you're retired, that means this. That means you have put, hopefully, although before I say that, let me say this. Most people in this country spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do their retirement. Wow. More people spend more time for retirees planning a 2-week vacation than their eventual retirement. So I'm talking income estimates, expense estimates, and the income estimates are the things that really don't change. You're going to have, I'm going to say Social Security. You're going to have a rental income from your little duplex, and you're going to have some income from maybe some investments. Okay, that's your income, and it's probably not going to vary. It's not going to vary a whole lot. The things that are going to vary are the expense side of the ledger. That's the one that just gets all of us. It's the expense side. Well, the car, the brakes in the car went out. Well, we'll take care of that. You didn't plan on that. You realize that it's a car, and things could happen. I tripped, and I go to the doctor's office, and he charged me, and they didn't keep me overnight, so it's out of my pocket. It doesn't go into Medicare. It doesn't go into my health care, so I have that. Well, that's an expense. All these things, the garage door pooped out, the garage opener. All these things, these are uncontrolled expenses, but they're expenses that we all face. Each and every one of us deals with that, for sure. An elected expense. My wife decided, notice how I said my wife decided, that we needed a new deck. Our deck is almost 20 years old, and it's been, if you will, sitting outside for 20 years. What would you look like? Well, so the deck, we're getting it replaced, and had 2-3 bids, and they were all over the place. One for $30,000, one for $13,000, and one is right at that as well. And the one for $13,000 and the one close to it are based on availability. One guy says maybe by November, and the other guy says, well, I can probably do it in July. So there you go. So that's what's going on. That's an unplanned expense. So, but it was planned with my wife, so it's going to be an expense. Isn't that something? So that's what's going to happen. So as retirees, we have expense estimates. We talk about health care coverage all the time. Well, it didn't cover that. The first 90 days with your long-term care policy, mine is a 90-day wait. I think it's a 100-day wait. The first 100 days, wherever I end up or my wife ends up, is on me, is on her. Okay. Maybe you plan a lot of activities, which you should do, travel planning and things like that. That is part of good retirement thinking, good retirement planning. I hope that you take advantage of each and every one of those. Income estimates, expense estimates, healthcare coverage, ideas and plans and programs, activity planning, got to have those. Travel planning, got to do that. I called the guy this morning. I left a message at his office for me, see if he called me back. So it said, if you need an immediate response, call this number. So I did. And he said, well, I'm on the way right now. I'm on the way to Wrigley Field to watch a ball game. I said, well, congratulations. Good for you. Have at it. I left a message on your business. He said, I'll listen to it first thing in the morning. There you go. So that's kind of what way things happen in business for sure, okay? Many seniors with whom I talk with are in quandaries over one or more of the above dynamics, and that would be the activity planning and the health care coverage and the expense estimates. Well, I would say many seniors. I would say most seniors on that with the dynamics. It's the expenses that really, really lay the wood to the thing, folks. It's our expenses that really, really uncontrolled, unexpected expenses are the one. Do you remember this? That, let's see, 60% of American retirees, 60% of Americans, 60% of Americans are not financially capable of dealing with I think it was a $600 emergency. The brakes go out of your car, the bill's going to be $753, or the mechanic hands it to you, and you're thinking, a week from Tuesday I get paid. Do you have a credit card? I'll put it on there, and then I'll have to pay the credit card back. So 60% of Americans are having a hard time. So if you're past that, more power to you. My thumbs up, my salute to each and every one of you for having some good retirement planning. All right, good for you, good for you. A senior man advises that his daughter, I like this one. This one, see what you would do. This could be you. I don't know, it's not you, but I mean, this is a senior man advises that his grown daughter tells him, this is just last week, we made an offer on a house about a block from you. And then she said, I think we're going to get it. The kids, his grandkids, and I are so excited. And I have to tell you, this senior I was talking to is in shock and disbelief. He just told me the story. He says, that's too close. He said, I'll be way too handy to all of them. Now, there's just the mom and his daughter and the 3 kids. I guess they're junior high level and a little bit above. I love them to death, but he said, a block or two? He said, I'm by myself, so his wife is gone, apparently, and I can't handle 3 kids. But there's not much I can do about this situation. Wow, isn't that something? His daughter, without asking Dad, giving the news to Dad until they made the offer, and it looks like it's going to go there, and she, 3 kids are going to move in close to Dad. So what does inner thinking here, I-N-N-E-R, what does inner thinking say? She needs Dad. She needs since she's by herself, and maybe Dad is by himself, maybe she feels that there's comfort and security and going forward and living close to Dad. Maybe they can offer him some security as far as personal welfare, personal care, just being close to him and dealing with him, helping him. And on the other hand, maybe she's feeling, well, we're going to be close to Dad. You kids can run down there on the weekend and stay for the weekend. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. But all those things will happen. Now, I also think, I'm not in this situation with kids or grandkids, excuse me, but I think this, in the long run, creates a huge, huge opportunity for Grandpa. And here's my thought. This is just Rex's thought. I think maybe there's an opportunity here for Grandpa to work with these kids. I don't know their background. I don't know. First thing about these are only Rex's opinions, which don't even matter at my own home. I'm thinking this is a good opportunity in the long run for Grandpa. Grandpa could have a very stable situation with finances, with, if you will, thought process, with social thought process, with upbringing process. If his daughter wants to live close to him, it's not like she doesn't like him. So, I mean, this might be a real good chance for Grandpa to sit down without taking total steerage of the boat here, and in his own way, help these kids through school, through life, into life, things like that. I'm seeing this, and I hope this pans out in what I'm thinking about, as an opportunity for Grandpa to look past all how close they are and things like that. Maybe he's made the the comments are, I wish you lived closer over the years. You know, we could sure deal with this. Well, now it's going to come true. He's going to find out. So I just thought that was fun. He is in a state of shock. That was 2 weeks ago, so I'll see him one of these days, see what happens. A senior lady tells me, I've got 2 stories on this one, I plan to go on a cruise. She says, I plan cruises 2 years in advance. I said, wow, good for you. And she said, well, why would I do that? I said, why would you do that? She said, I always have something big to look forward to. So she said, if you call a cruise, then you think, well, I don't know if I can get away. I don't know if I can do that. Well, I'd go on that cruise, but I just don't know if I could swing it. But she said, if you plan every 2 years, you go 2 years in advance, you know you're not going to be busy. 2 years down the road, you just plan it, and then you've got two years to round up the finances, or round up the travel package, whatever you're going to do, round up your friend to go with you, or talk to somebody, go with blah, blah, blah. So she said, that's what we do. I plan. She says, I go on a cruise every year, but I plan 2 years in advance. So she's on a cruise right now. Sweden, up in that area, okay? I just thought that was interesting. So she's already working on next year's plan, and then she's probably starting to kick tires in the year after that. Of course, this is only good as long as she's around. We all know that. But at least in her mind, what's she say? She says, I always have something big to look forward to. And that could be reading books and a movie theater. Do you remember years ago, they used to have what they called travel logs down at McBride Auditorium on campus? We used to go all the time. And usually there'd be a guy and his wife who just got back from a 4-week tour to Bolivia. 3 weeks in Ireland. We visited Iceland for a month, that type of thing. And they took good cinema, they took good stories. We had a lot of fun going to those. And it was at McBride Auditorium on campus in the theater there, big open wide places. If you ever went to university and took classes in there, it's a great place to have a class, big lecture hall. But they don't have them anymore. So everything's online, folks. Anyway, that's what she's doing. So my hat is off to this lady. She's on a cruise right now. She says, just sign up and go. Well, speaking of that, I talked to a senior friend of mine, and he was here in town hadn't been here for 3 weeks. He lives close by, but in a different state. He visits every 3 weeks or so, do a little business here. And he said, I said something about the family or the wife and things like that. He said, well, my wife is actually on a cruise right now. And she said, yep, she decided to go on a cruise. And she said one of her friends went with her. And I said, well, good for you. Good for her, matter of fact. Well, good for both of you. He started laughing. Yeah. He said, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. I got my daily things as a senior man. I got things that I want to do. Anyhow, of course, we all do. So she's on a cruise, but she said, I don't know how much fun she's having in Alaska. I said, well, why is that? He said, so she got up there. She called me from the cell phone. She said, guess what's happening to half the people on this boat? And I said, COVID. And he said, you're absolutely correct. She said, half the people, I don't know how many of them, but half the people in the boat, she said, I've been basically in my room for 4 days. Well, what kind of a cruise is that? But wouldn't that be a kind of a gamble these days with that many people from different places to get the COVID, even though the ships that were COVID-free or haven't had an outbreak of COVID for 6 months or something like that? Wouldn't that just be a mix of people? So I said, well, is she really, really bad? Is she down in the dumps? She said, well, she's supposed to stay in her room. She does go out on the deck when nobody else is around just to get some fresh air. But she said, excuse me, she's had a headache and the standard, whatever you get, coughing and things like that. So said it just hasn't been as much fun as they planned. Well, why would it be? So there's my 2 cruise stories. One lady says, go do it, and the other lady says she did it, now she's got COVID. So don't let COVID run your life. That's my opinion. Anyhow, you can't do that. All right. So, here's the fun one from a senior couple. A senior couple says, Rex, do you think we should have the house insulated? And I said, what? She said, well, we had an energy audit, and they recommend a lot of new insulation in the attic. And I said, based on the energy audit, I said, I had those done many times. I had one at one of my properties not long ago, and they laid out a chart on all the heat and the cooling I was losing through the attic. And they laid out a chart for what they recommended, and they laid out a tax credit, not a tax deduction, but a tax credit where you can take the funds and deduct it off your taxes, which I took advantage of. Excuse me, matter of fact, I got a tax credit and I got a big rebate from the company. It was a huge and great deal for me. I said, yes, if that written thing from the local Mid-American Energy shows that, then you should consider taking advantage of it. Whether you're going to stay there for 1 year, 5 years, 12 years, or you're going to sell next week, I would do that. Because all the heat that we get goes right up into the attic, and away it goes, and all the coolness you get, it doesn't stay in the property at all. It's all controlled, if you will, by your attic. Isn't that crazy? Now, my grandma and grandpa had insulation in the attic in the home they built in Corville in the 1920s. A newspaper. That has an R factor of -0. It's nothing. But that's what they had. If you get up in your attic, if you have an older home, you'd be surprised what they use up there. So I said, call a local insulation contractor and do it now. Whether you plan to stay or plan to move, this is a really, really good idea. They said, well, thank you. We're going to call somebody. We're going to get somebody out there. And the good for you. I need to have a big conversation with all of you right now. And this is it. I want you to lean forward in your chair and listen. Especially if you are a property owner, if you're a homeowner, I'm going to assume that lots and lots of you are, and you're a married couple, and I don't care what blend, anything like that, none of my business there. But however, whatever your status is, your marital status, if you're married, I want you to figure out how you took title. What? When you take title to a house, you have it in, and I'm going to use the law of averages here and say Jane Doe married Bob Smith. So we have Jane and Bob Smith. Those are the people I'm talking to. If you will, the law of averages said that's the couple. All right, I'm going to go with the law of averages. You took title. When you bought a home, you were married. You're Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Bob and Jane Smith. All right. So when you bought that home, at the closing, you were handed a deed. You gave them the money, and the seller gave you a deed, which is basically a receipt for getting the money, and also shows who owns the house, the property, the acreage, the house, the condo, whatever it is. And on it, it'll say the seller, Acme Construction Company, hereby sells this house to Jane Smith and Bob Smith. Now, there's going to be a comma, then here's what I want you to check on. Does it say Jane Smith and Bob Smith as tenants in common or as joint tenancy with full rights of survivorship? And here's the answer you probably want. I'm not your legal advisor. I am not your attorney. If you're the standard everyday people up and down the street, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Mr. and Mrs. Brandstatter, I'm hoping that your home is you took title as joint tenants with full rights of survivorship. That means this. Everything's going good, and all of a sudden Rex gets run over by a cement truck, which could happen any day. You never know. Who knows? The house automatically, the title of the house, not just the house, the title of the house, automatically goes to my wife because we owned it as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. Now, if we own this property as tenants in common, and there are reasons, there are legal reasons, there are monetary reasons, there are things that your attorney can advise you on. But for the most part, most couples don't have this tenants in common. If you own it tenants in common, and old Rex gets run over by the cement truck, my wife doesn't inherit my side. She doesn't get my side. My kids would if I had kids, or whoever had my will. Well, what happens to her half, Rex? She's your wife. Her half is owned by her. Well, she wants to sell the house and move to Colorado. Well, she can sell her half. Who's going to sell my half? She doesn't own it. What? She doesn't own my half. There and this end creates a big problem. Well, how are we going to find this out, Rex? What are we going to do? Well, you can... lots of ways to find out. If you know what your deed, if you have your deed around, you can go online to the Johnson County Recorder, look up your name and look up your deed. You can go down to the recorder's office and see, give them your legal description, your street address, see if they'll look up and pull up a copy of your deed. That's an easy way. Price that gets you, get you out of the house, get you down to the recorder's office, down to the administration building. You go in the front door there on the east side, walk up the steps to the left. That's the recorder's office, and they'll pull it out there for you. They'll look it up, and on that deed, you want to make sure that in most cases it says Mary Smith, Bob Smith, joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. If it says tenants in common, I want you to sit down and call me, and we'll see why it says tenants in common, and then I'll probably refer you to an attorney. Okay, and it's an easy fix. If you want to make a change, it's the attorney what they call draws up a deed. You both sign it, have it notarized, and it's recorded. It has to be recorded. Full of cost. I don't know what attorneys charge. I'm going to say less than $150 ish, something like that. It's not a major deal. Oh yeah, they have to read the how you took title. It's pretty standard. Don't get caught. This creates big problems down the road. If you are tenants in common, Mr. Smith dies. Mr. Smith wants to sell the house. You had thought it was hers because he's gone. Guess what? Legal yellow flag, big problem. Okay? You got that? I'm not going to beat it anymore. Go down to the recorder's office. Go online and see if you can find a copy of your deed. They've got it recorded down there. It is online. It's on the recorder's website. If you muddle through that, I don't mean muddle. They've got it set up nicely, but just go down there. Nice and easy. So please do this for sure. Also, while you're down there, I'm trying to make life easy because remember, we senior, everything's difficult just because we're senior. While you're down there, I'm going to give you the last 2 shots across the bow. A lot of you are not. You own your home, and if you bought a house this year, or last summer, and you did not go down and sign up for homestead exemption, it does not transfer. You need to go down and say, we bought a house last November on Main Street in Oxford, and we want to, that's the main drag, by the way, and we want to, it has to be the house you live in, we want to sign up for homestead exemption. You might have bought a house last week. You have to go re-sign up, just one time, re-sign up for homestead exemption. Ladies and gentlemen, this will save you $4,860 off of your assessed value. That's going to save you some tax money, about $160, $170 a year. And if you forget to do that for 5 years, you just put a ton of money into the supervisor's billfold. That's not what you really want, is it? No. What if you did it for 10 years? Well, now you put $2,000 into their billfold. I'm not picking on them, just one speech here. While you're at it, if you're a senior and you own your home, remember this new thing that the Iowa legislature passed, 49-0, because one senator was not in attendance due to health, is if you're a senior, you can sign up and get another by July 1st. So that's July 1st is this Saturday. So by Friday, you have to go sign up. Have to do both these by this Friday. And you're going to get another $3,500 off of your assessment because you're a senior. And on January 1, it doubles automatically. So you can wait till January 1, you'll get that half, but you're going to miss out on a whole half of it for next year's taxes. Next year, not this year, next year. So I just chased you down to the administration building at 902 or 905 South Dubuque Street. It's where you get your license plates, right upstairs, where you get your, pay your taxes, unfortunately, right upstairs. Just go upstairs, recorder's office. If you're going to sign up for the assessor thing, the homestead, and that you have to do one of two places. You have to go one of two places. If you live within the Iowa City city limits, you go to the same building, go upstairs, and go to the Iowa City assessor's office. If you live anywhere in Johnson County, you live in Lone Tree, you live in Swisher, you live in anywhere else, you live in Coralville, Oxford, any of those towns, out in the country, in Johnson County, you go to the Johnson County assessor, right upstairs at the administration building, right up top, there's an elevator. Right there, you get off the elevator, you run right into the assessor offices. Cool. What a way to go. I'm chasing you down there to save yourself some money and save yourself some real problem. What a deal for you. A local banker was telling me our CD rates are up a lot, but we really haven't seen a ton of a big rush and a rollover to come in and roll over. Well, I said, what? He said, we just haven't seen as many as we thought we might get. Wow, isn't that something? All right. So that means, folks, you're too busy doing other things than worry about your own money. Make your money work for you. If you've got CDs coming due, go down there, get the new rates, move it around. Maybe there's other investments you'd rather have than a stodgy old CD, which sometimes appear to be pretty darn brain surgery because they've held their own for sure. It's not a way to make money, but it's a way to preserve money, okay? Did you know that as a senior, you can get a free ride to ride the Coralville bus from Coralville to Iowa City? You have to go to City Hall and get a senior pass free, good for 2 years. It's a 2-year pass in Coralville. It's free if you're 65 and older for residents of Coralville. And I think it's the same for Iowa City. You can ride a Coralville bus downtown to the Pentecrest, then use your pass to get on an Iowa City bus and ride it out to the east side of town for free, for gosh sake. What a country. When I say free, remember it's coming out of your hide and your taxes, all right? I want you to do that. Well, we're coming up on the 4th of July weekend. Actually, next Tuesday is the 4th of July, but it's a lot of people probably aren't going to work on Monday, so it's going to be a pretty good jolt for our work-a-day system. So the 4th of July for me as a kid, all the fireworks, that was for me, my buddies and I from about the 5th or 6th grade. 4th of July meant going to fireworks shows, somehow getting fireworks, hanging around with older kids who had them, not letting them put us in harm's way with those things because they can be dangerous. You know, we like to hang around with the big kids. We also went to Missouri every year. They went to Missouri every year because they had driver's license. We hung around with them. And also, you should know that in Iowa City's history, proud history after World War II, up until the 80s, Lower City Park was the place to be for 4th of July. Lower City Park. And it was the place to be. Thousands and thousands of people down there. It was operated by the Iowa City Jaycees. They put up snow fences, and they ordered the fireworks, and they hired a company. Sometimes the Jaycees themselves shot them off. Back then, that's what they did. They put up fences, and they walked around with buckets. And you remember parking there was a big parking, but trust me, if you've been around for football traffic, it's not like that. It's all one little dinky place down at the park. And you parked across the street where those old houses were and things like that in the park itself, already waiting for dark to see the firework. And what a deal it was. You'd sit on the hillside over there. You go down and see the bears and all that kind of stuff, and walk around the ponds and stuff like that while we're waiting for it to get dark. And people spread out blankets and to get a good spot, and the sky was nice, and they're going to have a great show. And that's what happened. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. It was a great, afterward was a 30-minute traffic jam. It was cars going the wrong way everywhere. Iowa City Police directing traffic, did the best they could. It was a rat through the snake getting out of there. But it was the 4th of July, folks. Everything went fine until July 4th, either 1952 or 53, one or the other. A tornado hit. Yes, the 4th of July tornado. Big, big news. Nobody got major injured. I think some lady fell down and broke her arm, if I recall. A tornado hit. Thousands of people out there. The tornado, I don't know, jumped over the top of them or whatever it was, and nobody got hauled away like on the Wizard of Oz or anything like that. But it was a huge, huge bad deal. Where else could it hit? Well, we were in Coralville, of course, and that night. And my grandpa, there was not much weather, nothing on the news hardly. I mean, back then, they had a TV. That sounds crazy to say. They had a TV, but they didn't have it on news. Now there's a tornado coming. They didn't know. They called Des Moines to see kind of weather they had, and they said, well, that'll be here tomorrow. That was about the weather forecast, if you recall. But for some reason, he didn't like the sultriness of the air. He didn't like this or that. So he said, we're not going to go this year. So my folks said, okay. So we went to their house in Coralville and down on the older part of town in 6th Avenue. And we could see them from there. We could see the ones up in the air, the skyrocket. We could see from there. So I was a little guy, and I remember I was 3 or 4 or 5 years old, so that helped me. That shut me up. And my grandpa, who was the old town marshal, he had some fireworks, which I later found out, confiscated from kids. We shot those off. So we had fireworks of our own. I didn't know where he got them. He was my grandpa. I thought he got it. Anywhere. That's what we had. So that was it. Well, guess what? I learned some language down there. I learned some terms in later life back then. Do you remember this? If you read the side of a firecracker, light fusee, retire quickly. That was on every one of them. Light fusee, they would call it, retire quickly. In other words, light it and get the hell out of there. All right? That's what it said. I was like this one. Do not smoke around fireworks. Well, they have to put those in there because some people are dumb enough to do that. Do you remember if you're a fireworks aficionado, we'll say, most young boys at least give it a whirl. Ladyfingers. Now, ladyfingers are a starter kit for fireworks. That's 101. That's even if they go off your hand, those don't hurt. That's a starter kit. Yankee boys. You remember Yankee boys? That was the next one up. And sometimes after our trips to Missouri, we'd buy hundreds and hundreds and thousands of them. We'd just let the whole string off. And let her go. Boy, it was like Machine Gun Kelly going, what a wonderful, yes, they were illegal. Yes, Coralville police would come a-running, but we just, anyhow, we never got hauled in, but we probably should have been in. Anyhow, well, everybody knew they were illegal. Everybody knew it. It's all right. Yankee boy, black cats. You remember black cats, and they were about as big around as a pencil, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe up to the size of your little finger if you got kind of a skinny little finger. Black cats were more powerful than Yankee boys. And black cats, they made when a firecracker goes off, it's called a report. And so when they made a report, it was worth listening to. They made a black cat made a nice report. And they had all kinds of fireworks. If you fireworks guys, they had zebras and they had all kinds of things. Oh, my God. They had a million of them. They were just great. As long as you didn't get hurt, and they can be dangerous. We all know that. And then when you got to be a pro, older, we started dealing with M40s, M60s, and M80s. And that's where the dumb meet the dumb. That's what we were. Anyhow, we started with M40s. They were pretty good. That was, I'm going to say, maybe like 6 Yankee boys and then the M60s and M80s. M80s were the coup de grace. M80s and cherry bombs were where it all went. If you were really into fireworks, you were a cherry bomb guy or an M80 guy. M80s seemed to have more power. When someone said we got some M80s, man, that's artillery. That was what we considered armed our warfare. Artillery. And then we always say, well, we got a string. We've got a string of Yankee boys. We got a string of black cats. A string. And man, they would be, came in a big, like a bandolero you put around like the Mexican bad guys always have the bandolero, you know. Now, that's what they look like, and we'd set a bunch of those up. And when I say this word, I don't mean to you personally. I'm talking to you. I'm talking about something we all used. Do you remember a punk? Well, a punk was a stick that had, you could light it, and then you could give you a little distance between your end of your hand and the firework you're going to set off. You just lit the end of the punk, and you would set the fireworks on the ground or wherever you're going to do it, light it, and then you were already a couple feet away. That was called a punk. Wow. All these things in the good name of fireworks, for God's sakes. It's an infatuation with fireworks. Well, back then there weren't as many people around here in town as there are now. So now I understand why people have some issues there that dogs and cats, I don't know about cats, but dogs don't like them. They never did, never will. If you're going to use them, they're legal in certain places, certain hours. Check that out. Just be safe, be careful, because they can cause some personal damage to you. And I have to tell you this, my cousin and one of his buddies, my cousin lived up on Fairchild Street, and they were there that night. He was like, let's see, he would have been 13 or 14 years old, 13. He was there, a couple of his buddies, and the tornado, he said it was bedlam there. So they beat it, and they ran up to, because they walked down to the park, they ran up to the west end of the City Park Bridge. They got underneath the west end of the bridge, because the weather, of course, is coming from the southwest and west. And they got underneath the west end of the bridge. Do you recall what the City Park Bridge looked like up until like maybe the late 60s, early 70s? Do you remember that bridge that was there? Sure you do. It was about the skinniest two-lane bridge, big steel, wrought iron skeleton of a bridge, gray steel. And I think at one end, across the top, I think it said 1906 on it. It either said 1906 or 1893. I don't know which one. I can't remember. The park bridge you see there now is the third bridge in the last 20 years, last 30 years. Okay? That's what's going on with the park bridge. So they hid under the west end of that old steel park bridge, and he thought surely he and his buddy, Gene Kennel, the late Gene Kennel, were going to get hauled away by the air, but they didn't. He said one of the scariest times of his life for sure. So, I want you to be careful. I want you to enjoy the 4th of July. Get out to that big Coralville parade or the Oxford parade or the Hills parade, wherever they have a good parade. Sit in. It's the 247th anniversary of that good old flag, the most beautiful picture in the world, the most beautiful sight in the world, the United States flag. So let's say God bless America. Thank you to all veterans. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening in. So long for now.
1630 KCJJ.